Hi everyone, welcome back to another For Those Who Code video. This channel is where we discuss and learn new skills around the topic of design and development. If you want to grow your skills and learn new things that's coming up, please like, share, and please do subscribe for more. In this video, we'll be discussing and learning on how we can add and implement dark mode in Next.js application, just simply with CSS variables. If you are curious enough, you can also find the code repository attached to the video description down below as well. Let's take a look at what we'll be building. So guys, we'll be implementing dark mode with CSS variables with this simple one-page application that we created. Here we have just a heading and subheading and a bunch of paragraph with a button, and here we can see switch here. So if we toggle on the switch, then we can see the dark mode implementation, and if we toggle it again, we can see the light. The good thing is if we toggle on to the dark and hit a refresh here, and we can see it starts with the dark mode, and if we toggle on to the light and hit a refresh, it starts with the light mode. So basically we are making the use of so-called local storage. So inside of your application, go to local storage. We can see here key value pairs has been stored, which changes from dark to light. So we'll be implementing this stuff with Next. So without any delay, let's get started. So I brought in VS Code here. You can use any text editor that you want. And to start with a fresh new Next project, we can go to its documentation and grab this particular command here, which helps us to create the latest version of Next and create a blank project for us. Let's also give our project a name. For now, we'll just call it Next Dark Mode and hit enter. Now I have already navigated to the project directory, and inside here let's start with npx run dev, and this should start up with the port 3001. So let's click this, and as we can see here, we are being served in port 3001, which is great. So first of all, let's start making change inside of index.js file. So we won't be using two styles. So for now, I'll just delete home modal and go with these global styles here and keep it as it is. And inside of our index.js, let's also remove this stuff, and let's also remove everything that we have currently. So we'll just start with this blank div for now, and also let's remove everything that we have here. We can import something later on as well. So let's start adding some markup. So before we begin, I'll just start adding some empty JSX. Inside here we'll just add a class name of a container, and let's change this to React. And inside here I'll just add a nav, and inside that nav we will create a div with the class name my brand. And inside here I'll just add my personal site and create another div which would be having a form, and we won't add any action inside that form. And inside this we will just add a label, and inside that label let's also give our label a class name. So a label class name would be switch, and inside that label let's add input, and input type is checkbox, and we can also add some more props to this input checkbox later on. So for now I'll just add a span and give it a class name of slider and close that span there, and everything looks fine for the nav section. So let's start adding another section here. So this section would hold everything that we have in the page here. So for class name, we can just add hero section for now, and inside this hero section we'll just have an h1, and inside that h1 I'll just grab an emoji that we need. So just paste it over here, and hey, I am Ishan. So this is basically my name. So just add this, and inside here we'll also add random h3, and we can add, let's also add a paragraph, and we can write you can find me, and let's add a span tag here, and inside that span, and let's add an anchor, and that anchor would lead to a specific Twitter page. I'll add that Twitter page later on. So let's add a trigger here, and let's also add some block of text. So I'll just grab a block of text which I have ready here, and after the closing the span, let's add this block of text, and ultimately let's also add a button with a class name primary button, and add connect with me. All right, so this is pretty much what we have for the markup. All right, so let's hit save and let's take a look at the browser. This is fine. This is fine for now. Let's go ahead and add some styles to this one. So for adding styles, as we said before, we are making the use of CSS variables. So I have already made some predefined CSS variables. So I will just grab in the CSS variable colors that we need and paste it right inside here. And we'll also grab some font that we need. So we'll just make the use of Poppins for now. And inside here, I don't really want to go through all the styles needed, but basically we are just using the same variable that we defined here inside of our classes here. So I'll just grab our styles and just paste it over here. And this is basically what we are using is the same variable which is defined here, and these are for the dark mode and this is for the light mode, and we are using that variable right here. So you can find this variable in the dark and also in the light, so it changes accordingly. So let's hit save and take a look at the browser. We can see everything is working perfect. So now our next step is to move on making documents. So what is documents? So before understanding document inside of Next, I will take you to the official documentation page. We are currently inside a documentation of Next inside document, which is pretty much advanced concept inside of Next. Generally, a document is just augment your application's HTML. So basically what we'll be doing is we will be using this particular file inside of pages which start with underscore document.js, and this would skip the definition of surrounding document markup with this default document that we create. So to see it in action, I will just grab everything that we have here. So let's copy this one and let's create document.js inside of pages. So inside here now document.js, and inside here let's add this snippet that we just copied, and we'll just hit save. And if we hit save and go to inspect and go to console here, we can see our document is being wrapped, but for now we can just add a lang attribute is equal to en, so that we can understand what's happening. And if we format it, we can see here, I don't know what's the problem, but we need to separate these out. So it would be a lang en. If we hit refresh and save, we can see that our HTML lang en has been added here, which says our document has been wrapped with the document that we created right now. So basically the document does wrap the default document that Next provides us. That's what the document does for us to understand right now. And the next step would be creating our script tag inside of a body. So inside of a body, before main, I'll just add, and inside the script we want to add dangerously set inner HTML and call a specific function right here. That function can be named as theme initializer script. Okay, so let's create this particular function down here. So I'll create a constant, and which would be this specific name that we created, and that would return a string. So this function needs to return a string. For now, I'll just add a function, and I'll add sit initial color mode dot toString, and basically generally set inner HTML, kind of you can call this like it's a property that we can use on HTML element, and it's just like inner HTML that we use in like JavaScript. We can proceed with that concept for now, and but to definitely get inside it, you can definitely reach out to any blog and platform. So inside here we want to call a function and call it set initial color mode, and right here. So let's create this function because we haven't really created the function yet. So initial color mode. So this particular function that we create right now would check the initial color preference. So so inside here we'll create a function and call it get initial color mode, and we will call this here, and inside here we will create a constant which we will call persist, and which would be window localStorage.getItem, and the item that we'll be getting is the theme key. So and let's also create another constant and call it has persisted, and we will call it type of persistent mode is strictly equal to a string, and check if it has the persisted preference. If it does has the persisted preference, that we need to return the persisted preference mode, and if it doesn't, then we will now need to check the current preference, what it has in the local storage. So let's call it a constant and call it preference, and which should be window.matchMedia, and we will grab this particular thing. Then we will now create another constant and media and call it has media query preference, which should be a type of preference, and it matches a boolean value. And if it does match a boolean value, then we can add another if statement here. If it does has the boolean value, then return preference matches. It's just a dark, else is it's a light. Then ultimately we can return light as a string here. So after we do this one, we also need to check get the initial color mode. So we will create a constant and call it color mode, and call a constant document element, and we need to set a property for that element. So we need to add element.style.set property, and the property that we want to set is initial color mode. We'll add this color mode and pass as a second parameter here. And after this has been done, lastly we want to check if the color mode applied is dark. So if the color mode current color mode is dark, then we should do a document element dot set attribute and add dark data theme and add a second parameter of dark. Okay, so after this has been done, this is pretty much what we have. So now let's move inside of our index.js here. So inside of our index.js, I firstly want to import two hooks that we'll be using, which would be useEffect and useState hook. So let's import useEffect and useState first of all. And inside here, let's create a constant, which should two variables name, which should be dark theme and set dark theme. and we will make the use state hook for this, and initially it would be undefined. So after adding this two variables here, we will now need to go to this particular switch and listen to the onChange handler. So we can call another constant, call it const handle toggle, and that would take event as a parameter, and inside here we will just add set dark theme to whatever the event dot target dot value is, or we can dot checked. I think it's checked. So because we haven't added a value there, so we can add type checkbox, and checked would be this handle toggle, or we can add checked as a different theme, and on change we can invoke this handle toggle here. So what if we want to add, and let's add dark theme here inside of our checked. Alright, so before we proceed with our user effect hook, so I'll hit a save and take a look at the browser, hit a refresh, and you can see here our dark theme dark is somewhat attribute has been added inside of our HTML here, which is basically from our document that we created. So this added that particular attribute, checking whether we have the light mode or the dark mode. So if we remove this attribute from here, it changes to the light mode. So basically that's what we are trying to achieve with this onChange handler that will be listening to this event right here. So let's go to our index.js, and inside here we want to add a use effect hook. So use effect, and basically we want to add, if we have dark theme enabled, or if it's undefined, we will execute this piece of code, and again we want to check if it's dark theme, and we want to be adding any logical operators there. If it's dark theme, then we want to add the set the attribute of dark theme and add a dark to it. So that would be document.getElement and dot set attribute, and the attribute that we are going to set is data theme and also dark, and we will also set our local storage with window.localStorage.setItem theme and add dark here. So this looks fine. If it's not a dark theme, then we could add document.documentElement.remove attribute. We want to remove our attribute, which is data theme, and also we want to set our local storage to light. Okay, so after this has been done, another thing that we need to add is a dependency area right here. So the dependency would be this dark theme variable that we define here. So after this has been done, let's also create another use effect hub and call a root. That would be window.documentElement, and like assign it to a constant, and let's create another constant and call it initial color value, and that would be root.style.getPropertyValue. So the get property value that we'll be getting is from initial color mode, and ultimately set dark theme to initial color value. to dark. All right, so we just want to call this function just once. So after this has been done, let's format a bit and hit save, and let's take a look at the browser. This should be document element. Then let's hit refresh and see the changes. It doesn't change really. So let's take a look at what mistake we did. It looks like we have made a mistake here. It should be event, not e. So I'll just figure out the problem. Basically, we need a else statement right here and add these 2 lines of code. And after adding these 2 lines inside of else, then if we hit a refresh, then we should change it to dark and light. And meanwhile, our application local storage is also working perfect. So yeah, this is what is expected behavior that we want. All right, so I also want to shout out to this specific blog that I recently went through, which is making a Next.js application with a dark mode using CSS variables. And I also have pretty much referenced this particular article, but they haven't really provided each and every line of code, and the implementation here specifically is pretty much different, but somewhat it resembles as well. So guys, in this video we learned about how we can create a dark mode implementation with Next.js and CSS variables. I hope you learned something new. So if you want to learn more around this topic of design and development, please like, share, and please do subscribe with a click down below. Thanks a lot guys. See you in the next one.